And now on the Two Murrays, Strata Matters with Stephen Brell for the Strata Community Association, New South Wales, the peak body representing the strata industry.
Do you want to get involved in this debate, or do you want to just park yourself and just talk strata?
I'm actually quite enjoying the discussion. It's interesting.
How are you, Steve? Nice to see you again.
I'm absolutely fantastic.
Good week, busy week.
I think Murray Wilton's enjoying this far more than what you are, Murray.
Oh, he gets all wound up and he gets all twisted and tense.
Mate, I just think...
Here we go. Mate.
I mean, look, the roads are there to share, right? It's a bit corny.
Correct.
So what about some courtesy, some consideration?
What, a bit of noise doesn't hurt anybody. It's all good.
I'm in my SUV. I'm the fastest you'll see. Make way for me. Thank you, Glenn from Shell Harbour. Here's Martin. I can't quote Martin directly, but if it's any consolation, I drive buses 10 hours every day in Sydney. I can categorically tell you that 99% of all the big ute drivers are gold-plated. Beep, 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 beep. Thank you, Martin.
That's big coming from someone like that. But anyway, let's talk strata. All right, we'll pick up the car debate later on, 131873. Interesting news. Chris Menz has announced the removal of the emergency services levy.
Yes,
and he did that this week, yeah?
He did this week, yeah. That's a huge win for strata owners in New South Wales because we were the only state that retained an emergency services levy through our building taxes.
Okay.
It was done away with in Queensland.
Yeah,
Right.
most other states have got rid of them a long time ago. So New South Wales were the only ones that were holding on. And, our association have been lobbying the government for years to remove this tax.
You've had a win.
Along with, we have had a big win. So, for strata owners, it means, considerable savings on their insurance premiums.
Okay, so how does it work? Are the insurance companies going to then, reduce the premiums, or are you going to have to go and ring them and say, oi?
No. It comes on as a tax, so much like the GST.
Okay.
So in the makeup of a building insurance premium, and this applies to a household or a strata policy, you would generally pay an emergency services levy. Then you pay a terrorism levy on top of that. You then pay
a terrorism levy.
Yeah, and then you then pay a stamp duty levy.
A terrorism levy.
Yeah, that's right.
Are
so
you
all of this
jokes?
Yeah, all of this comes out of your property tax. Your building insurance policies.
What are they
that you
doing
pay.
with the terrorism levy?
Oh, that goes into
What are
a
they
pool.
giving it to the Defence Force?
No. It goes into a pool. So if there is ever a terrorist attack in Australia, because terrorism is excluded from a building insurance policy. So if there was something that occurred, then
it was catastrophic.
Yeah,
okay.
that's right. Then the owners of that property could claim on that policy. So, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. 131873 if you want to have a chat to Stephen. 131873. What else has been happening in your world? You had any other wins this week or not?
Yeah, so this week there is going to be the release of the 2023 Strata Building Defects report. This is a joint venture between Strata Community Association, our association, and the Building Commissioner. Again, we did a survey of new strata buildings to come up with some benchmarking for how he's going in the role in remedying building defects in new strata developments.
And there have been some catastrophic examples in the last few years,
Yes.
certainly in Sydney. Just dreadful. People have lost $2 million. They buy an apartment, the thing falls around their ears. They've only just moved the first set of furniture in.
Yeah, that's right. So Mascot Towers is probably the most famous example of that, and closely followed by the Opal Tower building. And that's where the Building Commissioner came from. After that,
what remedies is he proposing? David Chandler proposing for people who've been dudded in this way?
He's put a lot of initiatives in place. So the biggest one, and one which I do want to recommend everyone jumps onto, particularly if you are in a newer strata scheme and you've got building defects. He's got a program running at the moment called Project Intervene. Now, that expires later this month. However, essentially what this project is, it allows owners in strata buildings to approach the Building Commissioner's office. They will send out building inspectors free of charge to go out and have a look at the building.
Right.
Okay. If they find defects, the Building Commissioner's office will then negotiate on behalf of the owners with the developer / builder of that particular property.
Yep.
And then they will enter into what's called a building works rectification order for them to fix up the defects. So the only proviso with that is that your builder or developer must still be solvent. So they must still be trading.
Well,
these people who phoenix their companies. Oh, look, we've taken millions of dollars from poor suckers who have bought their crappy apartments.
Yep.
they've done a runner overseas, taken all the money. What recourse have those poor buyers got? None.
Yeah, regrettably, and the one that you're thinking of there is the Top Place debacle, where the gentleman who owns that firm is now living overseas.
Yep.
This is something else which David Chandler's office is looking at. So he's come up with another model called the ICERT building rating, and it actually punishes builders that actually do Phoenix, their development companies.
But how can they be punished if they're never going to come back to Australia?
He's looking at powers or additional powers where he can actually pursue the directors of these companies personally.
So they need international powers, correct?
Yeah,
Is that what they're trying to get? Yeah. Okay. I'm sure it happens in other countries around the world as well.
Oh, we wouldn't be the only ones.
Oh, no, not at all. 131873, if you'd like to have a chat to Stephen Brell, anything to do with strata living. So if you're in that environment and you've got some questions, call up and have a chat to him on 131873.
Oh, another thing maybe the Commissioner's going to look at is this ridiculous notion that you can basically have anyone you like certify your project. Gee, that pour is really nice. That concrete slab looks great. It's got more cracks than the Grand Canyon.
Private certifiers.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the reason
silly.
why. Yeah, that's right. That's the reason why he's passed legislation called the Design Building Practitioners Act, and what that act is designed to do is to hold those in the supply chain accountable for their piece of the puzzle. So whether you're a building designer, whether you're a certifier, whether you're the actual builder yourself, everyone's going to be responsible for the role that they have to play.
Because I think you were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and you know, Muzz was in agreement with you. We're going up, aren't we?
Yes,
absolutely. I can't remember the terminology that we used in regards to occupying vacant space, especially in Sydney. We can't spread out. Mm-hmm. So these problems are going to be occurring almost every month, aren't they?
That's right, and that's the reason why the building commissioner has been put into place, is to make sure that builders and developers are held accountable, and that they build quality buildings rather than, just mass.
And these figures, I'll tease out some of these figures in a moment with you, Stephen, because since Chandler's been on the job, the number of problems has diminished significantly. Let's go to John first, though, from Linfield, because John's on. Let me just turn the screen around for you, Stephen. There we go.
All right, John, how you going?
I'm well, Stephen. Good afternoon. I'm chairman of a Strata committee which has been involved with the NCAT tribunal for over the last 22 months, trying to stop a new owner carrying out major renovations without approval. The tribunal's issued stop work orders. It's also issued cost orders in favour of the owners' corporation and an access order to remediate some work which is non-compliant to a fire order being issued by North City Council. The tribunal has not followed up any of these orders and they've all lapsed and been ignored. So I'm just wondering whether there's anything the association can do, because it's difficult to believe that we've now got to go to the district or the local court to get some sort of satisfaction. Why would you have a tribunal that's vested in sorting out strata issues, seemingly not following up on any of their orders and making sure there's any outcomes?
Yeah, no, John, I sympathise with you here. So essentially what occurred is in the 2015 Act, when our strata laws changed, there was a fairly significant defect in those laws, in that the tribunal previously would chase up and issue orders and fines to owners, but they now no longer do that. And as you quite rightly identify, in order for owners' corporations to pursue fines, they do need to take it to another authority and actually pursue that as well. Right. So this is something which, again, we are lobbying the government. It's interesting you raise this point, because I've got to do this week with the Strata Commissioner, John Minns, no relation to Chris, about this very issue. So, it's interesting. Okay. As far as, regrettably there, John, what you do need to do, your owners' corporation right now will need to pursue that through a higher court in order to get the cost back, which, again, it just seems to be a win for the lawyers from where I'm sitting.
Man, it's a lot of mucking around, isn't it? For a group of people that are trying to do the right thing in a strata environment.
No, it is, absolutely. And this is the reason why, again, Chris Minns, the Premier, not to be confused with John Minns, the Property Commissioner, this is the reason why he appointed him as the Strata Commissioner, so we can address these issues. And these are the types of things that our association lobbies for.
Okay, all right. Thanks, John. I hope that helps you out. Probably doesn't give you the answer you want, though, but 131873.
22 months, my God.
It does, yeah. What
do your head in?
Would do, yeah.
John, I think you are still there. I would encourage you to ring our association, 9492 8200, and we can see what we can do to put you in contact with someone who can help.
9492
8200.
Thank you very much indeed. A nice text here. In ancient Babylon, the legal system required if an architect's building fell down and killed the new owner, the architect's life was forfeit. Maybe we can just bring that into the 21st century.
Now, let's have a chat to Laurel. Laurel's called through from Wheeler Heights. Hi, Laurel.
Oh, hi there. Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure.
And, Stephen, I don't know whether this is up your alley.
Sure.
But you were mentioning just then about a building inspector that might be able to help. We're in a block of 12 townhouses. Unit 1 used to face the street, and then they changed the access due to a installation of an Ausgrid kiosk. But the new entrance, which now comes off the driveway, has a curb, which is now not wheelchair compliant. Now, trying to get someone to remedy that one and fix it so it is wheelchair compliant is falling on deaf ears. We're between the builder and the developer. Would this inspector be one that we could access to come and help us?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because when new developments are designed, they are supposed to be designed to the current code, and that includes things like wheelchair access and access for disability needs. So I would be actually contacting. Do you have a project manager or anyone helping you with this, or?
Oh, look, we've tried to do it ourselves. We've gone back to the builder. He doesn't want to look at it because it's not part of the initial development. The developer seems to have hundreds of emails from us and with pictures and everything like that. But as I said, it's falling on deaf ears. But fortunately, wheelchair access is not needed at the moment. But who knows what's down the track. It's probably going to be a costly. I don't know what the cost is going to be. But whose cost is it? Is it the developer? Is it, the owner? Is it the strata body? Or, it's one of those, we just need some help.
Yeah, if you leave it unattended, it will end up being your owner's corporation or your body corporate's expense. So if this was an obligation that the developer or builder had to do, and you'll find that out by just simply looking at the council approvals, then yes, I would be pressing them to do that. And I'd be encouraging you. Probably the best place for you to go would be actually to lodge a complaint through Fair Trading, and then they'll be able to pick up the matter on your behalf and take it from there.
Okay, good on you, Laura. All the very best. Hope that helps you out. 131873 is our number. Where are we going? Let's go to Kim. Kim's called through a Dural. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Kim.
Hello. Hi, Mars. How are you?
Pretty good. How can we help, my dear? How can we help?
Well, I'm hoping you can help my daughter. She lives in an apartment which is about 6 years old. She's had multiple defects in her place. Some have been repaired, but the whole building has defects, and their strata has just given them a letter to say they will be required, every resident will be required to pay $1,200 extra per quarter to cover the defects for the next 10 years. I can't see how that can be right.
Right. It sounds as though your daughter's building has gone through a building defect claim, and they've probably pursued the builder. And this is what the Murrays were talking about earlier. He may have phoenixed his company, and then
what does that mean for people who perhaps haven't heard the
phrase?
Sure.
So phoenixing a company means that you shut it down, you shut your existing trading company down, then you open up a brand new company. Rising from the ashes.
Do they go into liquidation or not?
They do. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay.
They do. So it's a practice which, again, the building commissioner is trying to stamp out in the building industry because this sort of thing happens. But judging by what you're telling me, Kim, if your daughter's apartment is 6 years old, they've probably exhausted every legal avenue that they can because they'll be getting towards the end of their building defect warranty period. What I would encourage you to do is ask your daughter through their strata manager to get in contact with the building commissioner's office and see if they are eligible for that scheme that I spoke about earlier. Project Intervene is what it's called.
You said that's going to expire end of the month.
It's going to expire at the end of the month, yep.
Okay, all right, stay with us. We're going to take a very short break. We're going to come back, more of your calls as well. If you want to have a chat to Stephen Brell from Strata Community Association, 131873. What?
131873. We've got some lines available.
This is Strata Matters for the Strata Community Association New South Wales, the peak body representing the strata industry.
Righto, let's take some calls. Maria's called through from Parramatta. G'day, Marie.
Yes, hi.
How can we help?
We've got an old building and it's got concrete cancer and it's quite dangerous because it's bits of concrete falling and things like that. But anyway, we had one engineer's report. It's very comprehensive and it said to do lots of things like waterproofing, place balustrades and so on. But then others got another engineer's report and it said just don't do waterproofing and the repair will be much, much narrower than the first engineer. And is it possible, I know that the building commissioner only checks out new buildings at the moment, but is it possible with that new legislation coming in, the Builders Off Commission Office, do you think they'll ever check old buildings as well? Because I'm worried that this repair mightn't cover everything.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that, Marie, because under the legislation, and this is what the Building Commissioner is trying to achieve, it's not only to look at new builds, but it's also to look at how owners' corporations are repairing and maintaining their properties as well. So these works that you describe, they will fall under a piece of legislation called the Design, Building and Practitioners Act. And what that means is any person who is actually undertaking the work will need to comply with the regulations under that act. Right? Yeah. Now, as far as the scope that you've described, it sounds as though there you've got two different scopes of works from the engineers. One looks like a fairly detailed scope of works, and they're recommending waterproofing, upgraded balustrades, those sorts of things. That is not uncommon for an owner's corporation or a building owners to do, particularly when they've got major remedial works, because it's much more cost effective, even though it's going to be a grander total price. It is much more cost effective to do all these works at once when you have scaffolding around the building and you've got the tradesmen on site, rather than trying to do them piecemeal individually. So that's probably what's happened there, is that you've got two slightly different scopes of works, a fairly detailed one and a cheap one.
And then that gets back to this issue that we have discussed before with callers, and you've mentioned it many times, Stephen. Many people, they can't afford it.
That's right.
They cannot afford to. They haven't got 50K they can park. They can just drop into their building repairs.
That's right. And that's where I'd be encouraging owners to look at. There are ways that an owner's corporation can finance these works. There are ways that owners individually can finance these works, even though they may not have ready access to loans or equity in their property. There are ways that they can actually
phone
fund
you?
them. They can phone us, yep, absolutely.
Okay.
94928200.
Just off that, a mate of mine has sent me a text who's a project manager and works with a massive organisation. He said, hey, mate, the building commissioner talks about fixing defects, but pushes consultants to get licensed, but building workers, the waterproofers and concrete guys that create 99% of the defects, he's not proposing to get them licensed. Do you understand that?
I do understand that, yeah. So traditionally the way building works is that the builder, the principal contractor, is then responsible for all the warranty works of all the sub-trades.
Okay.
So that's traditionally how it works.
Right.
But the building commissioner is pushing for the skilled trades such as waterproofing and so forth to become certified. So they can actually, there is some sort of qualification
So
there.
you're trying to tell me I can lay a concrete slab and not be certified or licensed?
Yeah.
Are you cracking jokes?
Who thinks that's a good idea?
What, the thing that the whole building sits on?
Yeah, again, because the builder is the principal. They are the ones that are principally responsible.
Unless they do a runner offshore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Holy crackers.
It seems back to front.
So anybody can be a concreter or a waterproofer?
Yep.
Okay.
But again, the builder's taking on a huge risk if they just use anyone.
Yeah, but please, it's going to cost them less and it's cheaper and no one's going to see it, and they would have probably done the bolt before there's any issue.
Here's one from Jean. Hello, if using private certifiers, why can't they make it a rule that council can access, build and do checks at various stages? The certifiers can do what they want with no ramifications.
Yeah, well, it's not quite no ramifications. So that was the system that was in place right up until the late 1990s.
Yep.
They got rid of it in favour of private certification, which has got us into the hole that we're currently in. Yeah. And the simple answer to that question is, in the good old days when councils would certify your building, the councils didn't want to take responsibility for being sued, and that's the reason why they pushed it onto the private market.
Oh, well.
And now we're trying to go back around the
all care and no
circle
responsibility.
again.
In other words,
exactly right.
And here is a text from Rod that just goes to the very point that was raised a moment ago. A friend of his owns an apartment in Sydney. They all have to pay $30,000 to repair windows and waterproofing issues. A total disgrace, stressful for her. Again, Rod, get this number down. You can ring Stephen and the team, 9492-8200. Maybe you can get some advice.
Yep. All right. Now, listen, Greg's called through from Como. G'day, Greg.
Yeah, g'day, fellas. Love your show.
Thank you, buddy.
Listen, I think that's terrific. Look, and I think Steve just stole my thunder in that. Look, no, I've had experience with this. I was a building surveyor or inspector for better part of 30-odd years in local government, became a town planner as well at the end and headed up a planning department. The amount of problems I've seen handed to council by, I don't want to bash certification, but really, this lies one of the major faults that have caused, and Steve's right by saying it occurred in 1998. Why does not the Commissioner look at handing back the powers of certification away from private certifiers who can have a very, very close link to the developer and or the builder, and give it back to an independent body that's looking after the construction of these buildings and certifying these buildings independently, because they're doing that for the community. And if this was to occur, you are going to fix up a huge amount of the issues. Can I tell you, gentlemen, if you were to contact any council now, and they would tell you the amount of problems they're trying to clean up that they're receiving from certifiers who have just done the wrong thing, it's fallen back to council, or the certifiers have disappeared. Why not have it go to the councils that never disappear? They're there. If they make a mistake, they're responsible. Surely this should go back. You're going to find, and I speak from experience, that you are going to find that 80% of your issues that are happening now will be resolved. And this is what the government needs to do.
Yeah, Greg, I think it's a really good suggestion, and I know that it's something that David is looking at. He'll be the first one to tell you that he can't boil the ocean, so he's trying to do this in a very sort of structured way in getting getting builders back to being responsible, for their works, and then all the people in the supply chain, as I said, the designers, the architects, the certifiers, they will all be on the hook for their part of the process, and they're part of the responsibility of making sure that buildings are built properly.
It's funny, we just have conversations with people about things that they're having done at home or what, and you say to them, "How'd you get that through?" "Oh, mate, private certifier. We organise one." "Really?" "Yeah." The old nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Stinks.
Absolutely, it stinks. Absolutely, it stinks. 131873. That's our number. We're going to take a break.
Yeah, I just want to give Stephen's number again, and I'll do it slowly. I've just been complained about. I'm giving it too quickly.
You are speaking quickly today.
The Strata. I'm cranky today. The Strata Community Association. This is Stephen and his team. The Strata Community Association, and here's the number: 9492 8200. 9492 8200. Yes, indeed, two Muzzies and Stephen Brell, of course. That's B-R-E-L-L. B-R-E-L-L.
How else would you spell it?
No, well, someone just wants to know.
Right, okay.
Because they want to make sure the email gets to the right
I
person.
See. Okay.
Where are we going, Muzzy?
Let's take some calls. Queen's Park. Jane is on the line. Hello, Jane.
Hi, look, I'm taking over from Jane.
I was going to say hello, Jane. There you go. Or whatever floats your boat. Yep.
The system is we're buying a property, a unit, and we just went and looked at the minutes, and looks like this block of units has been through to the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and it says the plaintiff's claim against the first and second defendants are discontinued. Now, we have no idea what that means, discontinued. So they obviously didn't win, I'd say, but I don't know.
Well, it sounds as though their legal matter that they were. I've got to stress, I'm not a lawyer. However, by the sounds of it, the claim was discontinued, so the legal proceedings didn't go ahead.
Yep. Could sorry, I know it's not Jane. What name is it? Paul. I'm wondering, is there someone that Paul could ring? Could he ring the people that are handling the strata?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're looking at buying into the property, so by the sounds of it, Paul, you've gone off and got a strata report. And again, I commend you for doing that, because anyone buying a strata property, I do recommend that they obtain a strata inspection before they actually proceed with the purchase, so you can find out what's going on in the Owners Corporation's books and records. In the report, you should have the name of your strata manager. I know my strata manager colleagues will hate me for saying this, but if you give the manager a ring, they might be able to help you out with what's going on there with those proceedings.
Okay.
Ask.
There you go.
Ask the questions.
Ask the questions.
Thanks, Paul and Jane. Appreciate
well
it.
done doing that homework. Let's go to the northern beaches of Sydney, because Jan has come through for a chat with Stephen. Hi, Jan.
We have massive renovations, new balconies, etc. needed. Looking each unit owner having to pay, probably about $100,000 each, which is a massive amount when you don't have the money. I'm just wondering, does that special levy have to be paid up front in full, or does the builder do it in,
stages?
Smaller amounts.
Increments, yep. So whenever an owners corporation raises a special levy, the timing of the levy and how many instalments are at the complete discretion of the owners. So you in your scheme, you and your other owners will get to decide when you're raising your levies. Now, there will be a practical implication there that if you do have major works going on, the builder will probably want progress payments as they're going through doing their work. Okay, so and generally what you'll do is you'll time your levies or the payment of the levies along with the timing of the progress payments. Okay. So for major works, the builder should give you a bit of a schedule or a program schedule of what they're going to do and when they're going to do it and when they're expecting for the progress payments to come in. And my advice would be that you time your levies a couple of weeks before those progress payments. So you got your money in the bank, you can pay the builder, and that helps with the owner's cash flow as well.
So give Stephen a call. If that was a bit much to digest, by all means, call on Monday. Call the Strata Community Association Monday and get some more advice if you think that's required.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Graham's on the line from Service Paradise. G'day, Graham.
Hello, Stephen. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks.
I've got a question. In Queensland, there was a change in legislation last week regarding the 75% rule for disbanding a body corporate if it becomes not worthwhile fixing them up, or people can't afford to do the renovations to fix them up. Mm-hmm. My question is, how are they going to value each unit of entitlement or apartment?
Okay, so what normally happens there is when a development is what we call terminated, what will happen is there is usually an offer from a developer who's going to buy the entire building, then they're going to redevelop it. So their offer is to everyone in total. They're generally not individual offers, and then how that offer is divided is, as you rightly say, via your unit of entitlement or by your shareholding within the building. So this is one of the rare occasions that when you have a higher unit of entitlement, you tend to get more money than what your neighbours will.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Graham, I hope that solves your problem this afternoon. Stephen Brell is with us, 131873.
Let's go to Ipswich in Queensland because Felix is online with a query about a driveway. Hi, how you going, Felix? Oh, it was a bit of a build-up.
Felix, you there?
No one there.
No,
hello?
all right. Oh, hello, Felix. What have you got, mate?
Yeah. I just got a question, I got a problem with one of the contractors, do my house, the driveway and the the 1 meter pathway around the house.
Yep.
And I looked through him through high pages in the internet. And that time, 2019, I take for granted they are registered with them. Obviously, they check them or whatever. So I didn't bother to check them out until they finished the job of problem. I complained to QBCC. The QBCC inspected it and found him. I think they find him, I don't know how many money-wise, I don't know. And then they can't ask him to rectify my problem. Until now, where am I going? I don't know. QCAT, any deadline or something, and how to go with QCAT or something.
So
whatever.
You're saying where would be the best place to go and complain, or at least find out a bit more about how you can make sure you get satisfaction in the work that you've done? Stephen, how can Felix get some satisfaction here?
Yeah, it's a great question, Felix. I'm going to say I'm not an expert in Queensland legislation, but I would suggest to you it's very similar to what goes on in New South Wales. What I'm going to refer you to, however, we do have an office up in Queensland, so Strata Community Association up in Queensland. Their number, obviously if you're in Queensland, 07, but it's 3839 3011. And I'd recommend you give them a call tomorrow morning and they will no doubt be able to point you in the right direction.
Is there any discussion with you and your colleagues in the other states to say, listen, enough's enough. Can we all get on the same page?
We would love that.
What do you mean? Why do you say we would? Who's stopping you from doing it?
Parochialism?
Each state parliament around the country is stopping it. So every state
So
and
what's
jurisdiction.
I don't understand what the issue is. Why don't you all get together? And why I don't understand why the governments want it to be different. It's like the education system. It's different in every state.
That's right, and it's like the train system, which is different in every state.
I mean, they're different
exactly
gauges in Queensland. For
They've been the
God's
same
sake,
since
but
First
why?
Fleet.
But don't you all want to be on the same page? Don't
We
we
do.
all want to be doing the same thing and learning from each other and picking the bests out of every rule and regulation and putting it together into one document?
You are preaching to the converted here, brother. Yeah. This is something which, again, we've been lobbying for a long time. I guess one of the questions is, which system would you adopt?
Well, I don't know. Somebody would have to sit down and work out what the best system
That's
is.
right,
But then that I suppose that would make all the ministers totally irrelevant in each state because you'd only need one, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Which would be a federal thing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of a fan here, Stephen. Kerry says, never let this man or his segment go. I put on the popcorn, grab a pen and paper and sit here and all. They'll carry me out of my house in a box. It's a horror story out there in apartment land.
Yeah, it is.
How have we let it get to this? Our laws are dreadful in the building industry, and these strata laws and fees have just got out of hand. So many people are so stressed. It just seems to be a really horrible space to be in for so many people.
Yeah, no, look, my advice to people when they feel like this way is that, look, you got to remember there is 85,000 strata schemes in New South Wales. There's over 2.2 million strata lots in Australia, and we don't ever hear about the bad stories.
Yeah, that is true.
So most people do live in quite a harmonious environment. Strata living, it's a lifestyle choice,
and
for
more
a lot
of us
people
are making that choice.
That's right. Yeah, and as you said, I heard you say on the way in, most people will live in a strata complex at some point in their life, whether they're getting into the property market or they're getting to retirement age when they move into a community style property.
Yeah.
So but in the main, most strata schemes do function quite well, and they're good places to live.
All right, mate. Don't go away. We're going to take a very short break. We're going to come back. Stephen Brell's with us. We're going to take some more calls in just a moment. 12 minutes to 3 in Sydney, 12 to 2 in Brisbane.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon, the 19th day of November. Stephen Brell, our special guest with the two muzzies. Let's go to DY. We're looking at apartment living, strata living with issues and whatnot that may be
Lots
out
of issues
and about.
on the Northern Beaches today.
Well, apart from bad drivers. Yes, hello, Jerry. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hello.
Jerry, how can we help, mate?
I'm ringing for a friend. She lives in a block of units in DY, Linwood Avenue.
Yep.
And they all got a letter stating that they need 100,000 from each person for major repairs. And her daughter is also getting married, and she had to help her, so she had to go to the bank to borrow on the unit. I think that's a bit rough, and she only works in retail,
So she's not a wealthy woman, you're saying, Jerry?
No.
So,
no, that's right.
And this is not an uncommon problem. Jerry, thank you for the call. Stephen?
Yeah, no, it's not. And again, this goes back to, something which I push for is for owners corporations to properly budget and repair and maintain their properties throughout their life. So a lot of the consequence that we're seeing now in Sydney is the fact that these older apartments have been neglected by owners for many, many years.
Sure.
Right? So they haven't raised proper works, they haven't done proper repairs. And what's happening now is all the current owners of these properties are having to put their hands deep into their pockets to pay for all the necessary renovations and remedial works.
Okay, just quickly, counter to that, how far in advance should you be banking money so that you can use it down the track?
Great question. Yeah, great question. So it was. You're on fire today. Yeah.
Jeez.
And before I go, remind me to just chime in on the Raptor argument too. Yeah. So in New South Wales, and it's similar in Victoria and in Queensland, every owners corporation is required to obtain what's called a capital works fund report. Right. Now, this is where you have an expert, such as a property valuer or a QS, a quantity surveyor, go out to your site. They'll look at your building. They'll look at the improvements on your building, and they'll give you an estimate on how long the improvements will last and how much they're going to, it's likely going to cost over the next 10 years.
Okay.
And then owners can budget adequately for that, for future maintenance works in their property. So again, that's something. Now, in New South Wales, there's no requirement to actually implement your capital works fund report. It is up in Queensland. However, in New South Wales, it's only a recommendation. And again, most owners corporations, because of the current cost of living pressures and so forth, they tend not to put their hands in their pockets. But again, I encourage owners to do that because it's going to save you in the long run.
All right, beautiful. All right.
Let's go to Penrith in Sydney's West because Catherine is joining us. Hello, Catherine. How can we help?
Hi. Yeah, I'm just inquiring about, we've just had a notice put on the building saying that we're having a meeting next Thursday. Apparently the building's currently got no money.
Right.
Some of the tenants that own it, they're not paying their levy. So the meeting's about us getting together to put a special levy in because the invoices aren't getting paid, so the people aren't coming out and finishing off the work that needs to be done. The building is starting to go downhill a bit. So they've said that we need to make a special levy to pay out the debt. Put a bit extra aside so we can start fixing the building up. The Strata management said that if we do all this, that they agree that they'll part ways with it. And then the guy said on the notice board or something that we'd be taking him to court, to refund our money. But if we can prove that we're trying to fix the building up at a special levy and then we take them to court, like, who's guarantees that we're going to win? And why should I have to pay other people's levies that aren't paying? What's the go there? Do I have to do that?
Yeah, by the sounds of it, Catherine, I just want to clarify, tenants shouldn't be paying your levy. So I presume that you're talking about the other lot owners in your scheme. And again, at the moment out there in Strata land, there are a lot of owners that are in default on their levies, and the reason being because of the cost of living pressures and so forth, and often your Strata levy is the last thing that people will pay. So most likely what your manager is proposing is that this special levy is going to be raised to cover the levies of the other lot owners, right? So that will provide cash flow for your building to pay invoices. Now, that does not mean that the owners will get away with paying their levies. The Owners Corporation can take them to debt collection and actually get those debts paid. However, that's a fairly long process. And by the sounds of it, what's being proposed is a special levy just to kick some cash into the kitty to keep the Owners Corporation funded and paying, and we can take it from there.
Good on you, Catherine.
Yep.
Okay, all the very best. Listen, good to see you. We've run out of time.
Yes, we have.
As we always do, and we can continue to take more calls. Best way for people to get hold of you, what's the number to ring?
It is 9492 8200, and I keep forgetting to mention this every week. You can also find us on all the usual social media platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. There's a lot of information we have on our social pages there that people can find. Beautiful. And plenty of resources on our website.
Mate, good to see you, and we'll talk next week.
Fantastic. Thank
you,
you,
Digger.
gents.
All the best.
worries.
Stephen Brell joining us in the studio from the Strata Community Association. Muzz, that number again, you've got it there in front of you,
Yes,
I believe.
indeed. This is for New South Wales, 9492 8200, but for Queensland listeners, 07, of course, 3839 3011. That will put you in touch with the same organisation in Queensland.